Welcome to my show, The Next Movement, hosted by Robert Johnson. On this show, we feature the stories and insights of community organizers and influencers who are making a difference in their communities. We will showcase the voices and stories of individuals and groups who are working towards positive change and making a difference. Tune in to hear from inspiring activists, community leaders, and experts who are making a difference in their local communities and beyond. Join me in this next movement. Let's explore the challenges and opportunities that community organizers and influencers face in today's world and how they are navigating the complexities of social media, politics, and public opinion. Let's bring it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's celebrate the power of community engagement and the individuals who are making it happen. Join Robert Johnson. Be a part of the next movement. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my show, The Next Movement, hosted by Robert Johnson. Again, today we are joined by phenomenal men of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. This is our second session with these gentlemen. We've talked about a number of things in our community. We've got the history of their fraternity, and then now we're going to expand on that to talk about some of their personal views, what's going on in Prince George's County, what is their relationship and their family relationship, their relationships within their community and their churches and their faith. So we really want to get to know them as men and as leaders, as was indicated earlier, in our community. So let's sit back, let's enjoy, and let's take this ride with me and the members of Alpha Phi Alpha on the next movement. Gentlemen, welcome back. This is part two. We had a great show the first time. We got to know a little bit more about your organization. We talked about the Alpha Academy. We talked about some of the other things from a historical perspective with your fraternity. But now let's bring it forward, right? Let's really stay current and let's talk about some of the challenges and opportunities for success in our county, right? We all are fathers. We all are community influencers and leaders, not only in our communities, but at our jobs and within our families, right? So let's expand on that and let's really just have a phenomenal conversation as we get into that, right? So I know we left off a little bit. We talked about your Alpha Academy, but there was something else that that you all mentioned to me previously was Project Alpha, right? So let's talk about that. What role, the roles, well, let's talk about that. So who would like to?
I can do that. Project Alpha is our it's our feeder program into our mentoring program. Project Alpha, the difference being we handle kind of man issues that center around sexual health awareness, domestic violence, relationships with young women. How do you interact with women, black women in particular? How do you be better fathers, better husbands, better boyfriends? How do you communicate with someone in a relationship? We give the male perspective, and we keep it exclusively male. And it's not just the brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha. We bring all men in and help provide some perspective and mentorship. Over the years, we have invited national speakers that have been, victims of domestic violence. Have been. I remember one. I want to say her name is Yvette Cade. Was a burn victim here in Prince George's County.
Wow.
We had her speak before the young men, and what we wanted to do was have a real frank and honest conversation with young men in a language that they're familiar with no cut cards, no women allowed, because we want the young men to be able to speak freely. And oftentimes you'll find that fathers will drop off their kids and will just stand back and watch other men impress upon their kids in a way that helps develop them and just keep real conversation going within our community.
How receptive were the young men to those trainings or workshops or classes, whatever you want, what you'd like to call it?
Yeah, I think very, to piggyback a little bit on what he said, I think, the key word that he used was develop, and the goal is always to develop our young men and to develop them more so to be leaders, because the hope is that you can impact them and encourage them and inspire them to go and be stalwart members of their generation in the community, so that other young men will look up to them, and so they have a voice that is heard, and that when they speak, that they're they have an impact on other people, and other people they can have a direct positive influence or impact on another person that may make them make a different choice or make them make a different decision. So I think it's been incredibly impactful, and hopefully we'll continue to make that impact.
Right.
In
And
our
you all
community.
talked about some interesting topics, right? You talked about domestic violence, healthy dating, healthy relationships, right? I'm assuming that you talk about family dynamics as well.
Sure.
Right? So, Mr. Milton, Brother Milton, let's talk about family dynamics. Tell me about yourself as a family man, right? What are your values? And tell me, how do you pour into these young men in either the Alpha Academy, Project Alpha, or just in general as a leader in the community?
Right. I married 53 years.
Congratulations.
She chased me 4 years before she caught me, so I was 57. I have 2 daughters.
You have to answer to that when you get home.
Yeah. And I have 2 daughters and a granddaughter and 2 grandsons. And I want my grandchildren to be exposed to positive people. So I feel it's my responsibility not only to train them and teach them my morals and values that their father, who's a pastor, is teaching them also, but to help other kids. I think the best teacher of students are other students. And I think if we mentor these students and we teach them and motivate them and direct them, they will influence their friends more than we can influence their friends.
Absolutely.
They listen to their friends more than they listen to their adults. So we're just hoping and praying that will make a difference, teaching students to teach other students.
And that's part of a leadership trait, understanding that, recognizing that, right? But then pouring into each one of them, because each one needs to teach one. And if I can teach the brother to my left, he may teach the brother to his left, or the brother to their right, and everyone's learning, right? So as we talk about really recognizing that, we need to pour into our men, our young men, and watch them grow, right? And so you're nurturing it, you're watering that seed every day, right? And you want to look at the outcomes for that. When you think about what's happening right now, right? And you're looking at you look at this generation, you look at politics, you look at some of the challenges and ills in our community, right? As a person, how does that make you feel? And then tell me what you think your personal responsibility may be.
Yeah. That's a great question. First of all, I think, unfortunately, for our young people, they have so many distractions. That's one. And unfortunately, negative always gets the press. Negative is what's glorified. Negative is what people see. And so in proportion to how much positive they get exposed to see, what's glorified to them is maybe, and I don't want to sound cliche, but it may be the rapper, or it may be the athlete, or it may be the entertainer. Like, they don't have access to a lawyer or a former principal, or myself as a senior level web applications developer. They don't have access to that and know that those are worthwhile careers, that you can do great for yourself in those aspects. We need those kind of people too. And also knowing not everybody can be those other things, like only the top 1% of 1% can be a pro athlete. Like, you know what I mean? So just trying to get, I think the bigger thing that we need is exposure, and being exposed to those young men, and them being able to see that it's cool to be educated. It is cool to talk properly. It is cool to get good grades and do well, and not feel like a square, or things of that nature, because that I know even when we were growing up, like, a lot of times, like, you may be picked on for being smarter, and it's just like, you look at other communities, like, since we have an open, frank, honest conversation.
Absolutely.
In my field, I get to work with, people from Asian demographic or Indian demographic. That doesn't exist over there. Like, you're shunned if you're not smart.
Correct.
Like, so it's just like, we have to get to a point where we change the dynamic and we change how we view things within our own community. And that starts with us as the men. Unfortunately for us, a lot of times, like, a lot of us have the same story. We come from single parent households where women are trying to raise men,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a difficult thing. And and I applaud our black women all day long because they stood in when we weren't always there. But it's our jobs now to come and take our rightful role and inspire and lead our family units the way we're supposed.
And as you do that, in your personal life and through your chapter, right? It's part of taking personal accountability and responsibility, not only for yourself, your family members, but on a larger scale for your community, right? So I'd like to do some things when I have individuals on my show. I have a word game that I like to do with individuals, and it puts some people on the spot. But but you're supposed to be the first, right? You're supposed to be. We have a lawyer, we have a scholar, right? And we have a senior web designer, since you just told everybody, right? So let's think about community responsibility, right? When I say community responsibility, what does that mean to you?
So I think one of the main problems we have in our community, I'll be a little controversial, it is the comfort and convenience of integration.
Mm-hmm.
Once we achieved integration, you had education. You had us achieving educational highs like none other, and then we started advancing into the corporate sector and everything else, and we started to appreciate our individual accomplishments rather than our community accomplishments. So oftentimes you'll see that someone will make it to the highest level of corporate of the corporate ladder, and nobody behind them is following. Right? It's the classic reaching back for one another, reach one, teach one. I think in our community we've gotten away from that, and in society in general we're so individualistic now. We've grown away from the community aspect of what community is. We don't know the neighbor across the street.
But how do we show that, right? We as the four of us, we sit here, we can have that conversation of a length, at length, right?
Right.
How do we show that, that responsibility? How do we get individuals to come back to that community, right? And highlight that you in the word. So highlight the unity, right, in community. Right. How do we get back to that?
It always starts with you as the individual. It's you as the individual, and whether it's through your fraternity activity or through your show, address the topics, bring up the topics. We talked about this off air, but we bring students in and have them operate the board, black students in particular, who are not traditionally in these different fields. We reach back and create programs, and we develop and develop and develop. That's a major word with Alpha, is that we develop. You mentioned earlier, and I don't want to go on too big of a tangent, but you mentioned earlier what motivated me. I have a debt inside of me.
Okay.
I never knew nothing about Alpha Phi Alpha or any fraternity or sorority in high school, but I had Alpha Phi Alpha show up to my high school for a scholarship that my high school counselor asked about. And I interviewed. I had a 2.4 GPA, but they interviewed me anyway. And from that interview, they were so impressed, they offered me the scholarship to go to what was then known as Southwest Texas State University. I was awarded the scholarship. I went to go pick it up, and I was like, yeah, some group, Alpha something something, offered me a scholarship.
Would you say that today?
Yeah,
Would you walk in and say Alpha something something?
Yeah, that's exactly how I said it. But here's the thing. Here's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about reaching back. The day I stepped on that campus, I ran into every black, Southwest Texas State at the time probably had about 6% black students on campus. Every black male on that campus approached me, hey Perry, how you doing? I don't know if you remember me. I'm so-and-so from Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. How's your grades? Right, let me see your schedule. What do you want to do? What's your major? They did that for like several years, right? And so when people ask, well, what made you go to Alpha? Like, if the path was laid for me based upon that.
Okay.
But it is that type of example. You identify a young kid and say, hey, you're mine now. You're now formally adopted. You're this young up and coming lawyer. You're going to follow me all throughout my career. I'm going to follow you throughout your career. What job are you looking at next? Let's put you into this. Let's put you into this
Yeah,
situation. And then, what are you doing? Who's your next person? There should be a line of succession.
A succession plan, right?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
and mentorship, someone mentored you and poured into you.
Yes.
Right? And that is your responsibility. I would assume you feel it's your responsibility to pour into the next person.
Absolutely.
Right? So when we talk about mentorship, Mr. Milton, you talked about your family values and your son and your grandkids, right? So when we think about mentors and family dynamics, right? And right now there's a divide in our community, right? There are gender wars right now, right? Where we have men against women, women against men, right? And then people just really saying, you know what? It's me versus we, right? So how do we get back to, when we're talking about family dynamics, right? And understanding how important it is. Tell me, what do you pour into, how do you pour into your son and your grandkids to make certain that they don't forget, number one, who they are and their responsibility to their family and their communities? And I'll start here and then come down with that.
Sure.
Great question. One, you have to develop a relationship with the child. You just don't automatically assume anything. So you have to constantly talk to a child about their responsibilities. Their responsibilities as far as the chores, their responsibility as far as respect for their parents, responsibility, respect for others. You got to keep them in church. You got to just keep them prayed up. You got to do things with them. You just can't, in this generation, you can't just tell them to do something. Don't do as, what was that thing used to be? Don't do as I
do. Do as I say. Do as I do. Yeah.
That don't work.
It's too smart for that.
You have to live by example.
Well, my grandmother used to tell me, when I want your opinion, I'll give it to you.
Yeah,
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. So that doesn't work anymore. With this generation today, you have to work with them, and you have to roll up your sleeves and help them, and direct and mold and guide them.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
constantly.
Absolutely.
It's not a one-time.
Absolutely.
It's constantly.
So actually, let me shift for a little bit, and thank you for that. Let me shift, because we talked about some of the negatives, right? And oftentimes there's a lot of talent. Our young people are talented.
Absolutely.
Right? They're gifted. They're so much further along than where we were at that time, because they have access to so many different things, right? But now it's just making sure that we can guide them in the right direction. Right? How do we cultivate that talent? Get them to see what individuals saw in you, right? The talent, how did they motivate and they inspired you and everything else? So how do you motivate daily, right? How does Alpha Phi Alpha motivate? How does Alpha Phi Alpha inspire? How does Alpha Phi Alpha lead, right? And say, if there was something to happen in this community today, would you be at the table to help solve the problem? And how would you help solve the problem?
Yeah, so I think a lot of that is what we do daily. Like, again, fostering those relationships, having relationships with the right people to get things done when you need to get things done. We've been blessed to have, like he said, we have a council member in our chapter in Mel Franklin. We have a school board member in Brother Burroughs, the governor of the state now.
Burroughs is councilman.
Council now, too. Okay, so he was on school board, now he's in council. He's in our chapter.
The governor?
The governor of the state is our frat brother. So
just trying to drop names on
that.
that.
We just talked, and we talked to him recently.
Okay.
And to be fair, Kappa Epsilon Lambda is one of those chapters that when these people want to run, like in our October meeting, Angela Alsabrook is coming to speak. Speak to our chapter. So, and she's a member of Delta Sigma Theta. So, the interesting thing about Divine Nine culture or it's still always, it goes back to the relationships, and we're far more alike than we are different. And so, it's mutual uplift, mutual benefit. All relationships are that way, right? It's what's mutually beneficial. So, I think it enabled, when you have those kind of relationships, to leverage. To get access to the resources you may need, or have relationships to, because this person may know that person and this person knows that person, to get you in front of these kids. Like, I think, you can make that positive impact. Is just exposure, like, in getting them away, sometimes to put the phone down or to get from in front of the computer or whatever the case may be, because they have so many distractions, so many different things that we didn't have. Like, and so, I think that's the big thing, just getting the exposure to them and then being an example and living your life right. Because the thing is, they do pay attention.
Absolutely.
They
are watching.
absolutely
They're
pay-
watching all the
they
time.
Absolutely pay
Sponges.
attention.
So you named some individuals, the school board, county council, and the governor of the state of Maryland, right? So as we talk about the process, and we talk about elected officials, right? Well, we're not talking about them, right? But you talk about the election process, right? Let's circle this back, and it came back to something that you mentioned in our last segment, in how you withdrew from the state of Florida, right? What I mean by that is you were going to have your annual conference there, right? And then you said, no, there's some things happening there, we're going to pull out, right? So they need to feel some pain economically, and it's just the right thing to do. So let's move into voting rights, right? Let's think about voting. Not endorsing anyone, because we don't do that, but let's talk about just voting rights in general, right? So in this election cycle, and any election cycle, right? What do you think is one of the driving factors that preventing individuals from not wanting to participate in the voting process?
Yeah, I'll take that on. I think a lot of people don't feel heard. I debate frequently with people about voting,
okay.
And the importance of it. We have a national program, A Voteless People is a Hopeless People, and that was, in the early foundational years of our fraternity when that program was started, when voting was a real thing, and I try to tell people, like, think of it this way. If your vote didn't matter, why do they try so hard to keep you from doing it? Okay. So it's like, it's an important thing. That's your voice. Like, be educated on the issues, more so. Our program focuses on voter education and registration. I would say probably lesser on registration, because most people, if you have a driver's license, 9 times out of 10, you're registered. But, being educated on the issues and understanding the power of your vote and taking advantage of it and doing what you're supposed to do. And that, we try to keep it nonpartisan, because you have all kind of people, and when you join an organization that is, as diverse as a fraternity, you're gonna have people from all walks of life, different religions, different cultural backgrounds, different, political backgrounds.
Absolutely.
So we stay out of that part of it, but just exercise your right and exercise your voice and be educated on the issues and make good, solid choices.
All right. And then what would you see as some of the issues right now?
In relation to voting.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think Brother President hit it on the head with the issue of not being heard. Also, the issue of dumbing down the issues.
Okay. Expand on that.
So just to identify, reducing it to just simple, abortions rights, all the different partisan things.
The wedge issues that people bring up.
Right. Most people don't live in those issues.
Okay.
The local issues are, what's going on with my school board? Can my kids get educated in public schools without me having to spend money and put them in private schools, right? How am I going to eat? What about the commuting issues? Things of that nature. Those are the things that probably resonate more with people. And I think from a national perspective, oddly enough, I think national politics turns people off to local politics.
Wow.
When local politics are more important almost than national politics.
Okay.
The rhetoric, the backbiting, the back and forth, the vitriol. I think, and we can get real controversial and run down another rabbit hole, but I think two-party system is damaging.
Okay.
Because it's groupthink, and I think people are fed up. And so I know a lot of people find themselves, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, and I just don't see it. And what we have to start doing is start speaking real truth to issues, and then thinking about how we evaluate what are the push issues. Is abortion's rights, and I'm not listening or I'm not endorsing
You're
anything.
good.
Is abortion's rights something that's really critical to everybody? Okay. Right? Are we missing other issues that may be more critical than the ones that are the national buzzwords? So, when I think about voters' right, voter education, I think the education needs to be to the political system on what people are really feeling and thinking.
And you and I are in 100% agreement in that. When I talk to individuals, I say, let's think about the political system, right? Are you upset with the individual in office, or do you feel that the system is not working for you, right? So if we're trying to educate individuals and trying to bring them out to vote and say, well, let's explain to you why your vote matters, right? Because you need to be engaged in the political system, in the process. Take the personalities away from it. Take the individuals away from it, right? Get a set of issues that you believe in, right? And then vote on the issue. Number one, understand what they are, right? How does it impact you? How does it impact your community? And then vote smart, right? But definitely, at all costs, be a part of the process.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And I think what happened, in my opinion, what happened in the 50s and the 60s, why it was so powerful, is that individuals literally went out and said, they didn't say, go vote for John Smith, don't vote for Robert Johnson. Gentlemen, this system is holding you down. This system has its foot on your neck, right? You need to get out and change it, right? And that's why we need organizations to help lead, right? That's why we need organizations and fraternities like Alpha Phi Alpha to get out there and lead, to understand what sacrifice is, to understand what commitment is, to understand what service is to others, right? To say, oh, you know what? No, I am my brother's keeper. I'm going to pour into this young man, right? Sometimes I have to, sometimes to motivate. Sometimes I have to inspire. Sometimes you have to pull them along, right? Because at certain stages, people don't understand what their talents and their strengths are, right? So we have to see that, right? And I applaud you all, because all of you have recognized individuals that help motivate, that help inspire you, right? And move you along, and then you're paying that forward. Right? And you're not only paying it back to your families directly, you're saying, guess what? No, we have things that we do within our organization, right? And I didn't hear what your Bowie State alumni as well?
Oh, yes.
So we have three Bowie State alumni here, right?
And he's
No, I'm the third.
Okay.
Let's acknowledge the great Texas State University.
He didn't know about Bowie.
Yeah, he didn't know, right? Come on, brother.
He didn't get a new one from Texas.
Take some of this tuition off. Right? So it's so important, and I'm so happy to hear you all say, hey, you know what? I'm a proud member of my fraternity, but you still understand the importance of the other 8 fraternities and sororities, right? And understand the mission and what we need to do as a community, right? And how we need to move individuals and our community forward. So we're coming up on a close. While we're closing out, I'll come to each one of you, right? Tell me about yourself in 1 minute. Tell me what moves you, and what would you want the audience to know about you and Alpha Phi Alpha?
Okay. I've been a scholarship chair for about 40 years of our chapter. And scholarship really moves me. I knew it made a difference in my life by giving an opportunity to go to college. I know that how it's given me, open up all kinds of windows and doors for me. So education is so important to me. My religion and my faith is so important. I'm a member of Hemingway Memorial AME Church, and my pastor is Reverend Chris Nateeson, and we believe in a lot of community service. So community service and scholarship, that's what moves me.
Absolutely. Brother Foreman?
I would say family. I have 2 college students. One's a freshman, one's a sophomore. Just creating a world that's better for them. In terms of, we were talking about service is the essence of our being. That's another saying we have. My service is, I do, in addition to Alpha Phi Alpha, I'm a board member of the Training Source, which is a career development organization here in Prince George's County. And we're celebrating our 30th anniversary. So just always being involved in the community so that when my kids graduate from school, they can take their rightful place in this community and take on the mantle of leadership.
Absolutely phenomenal. Mr. President, Mr. Gaylor.
Sure. I'll close up. So definitely family. I have a younger brother, Devin, who lives in Brandywine. His daughter, Deju, my niece, is my heart. And also her daughter, Skylar. So that's a big center for me. And then I'm also involved in several other community-based organizations. I'm a Prince Hall Freemason. I'm a Prince Hall Eastern Star. I'm a member of the Ancient Egyptian Arabic Order, Nobles of the Mystic Shrine, and so we all, try to make a difference in the community in every particular facet. So I'm just a fraternal guy.
Absolutely. So all together, let's give that closing statement. What's the motto, the mantra of Alpha Phi Alpha?
Manly D scholarship and love for all mankind.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to the next movement. I want to thank all of the gentlemen from Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, KEL chapter.
Yes, sir.
Phenomenal conversation. I appreciate you all and wish you all luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right.